What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA Show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/All-NBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Tim Legler, down in Dallas tonight. How you doing, Legs?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I love Dallas. I love this city. I love playing here. Haven't been back here a whole lot over the last, 25 years. I got out of the league. It's good to be back.
Dallas loves you too. We always get a bunch of people, Dallas fans in the comments, so they like you as well. So that's nice.
Well, I think in large part it's because I was as vociferous as I was the second that trade. All right, that's part of it. But they still obviously still feel that way here. And listen, we're gonna have them tonight. I'm sure we're gonna be talking about this stuff on the air. We got the Knicks Dallas game. And it's obvious, still so palpable. I don't know when this fan base will recover from it, if ever. I mean, you think about this. There are fans, particularly the younger fans, like the middle school age, like high school age, that maybe quite know enough about the game when Dirk was doing his thing. This is their guy, and even for some people who have been fans of the team for 40 years, like older people, it might also be their guy. Like their one favorite player is here. So I don't know how you from that as a fan, Adam. Like, I don't know. If the Denver Nuggets traded Nikola Jokic,
no, wait, don't even say that. Don't even talk about this. Come on.
3 years ago, like, would you ever recover? Ever?
No
matter what. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just, so it's still like just from that component, what they did. So anyway, we'll get that pulse tonight, what that's like at the arena. A lot of stuff going on with that team. Maybe Mark Cuban's coming back involved. They're an incredibly bad situation in terms of the luxury tax and all that. What do you do, man, the Mavericks, other than sit there and wait for Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving to come back and hopefully give you a respectable product? I don't know. But anyway, that's for tonight. Meanwhile, we got some other stuff to get into.
Are there any other like historical examples of trades that just lasted for, generations? You think about, obviously, in baseball, Babe Ruth being traded from Red Sox to Yankees. That one had like a very long, the curse. It lasted for a long time, kind of thinking about that. But in the NBA, are there any of these that you can think of, a team trading a marquee player and it just, it crushed them for a decade plus?
Wasn't Kareem traded, or he didn't leave via free agency, right? He was traded from Milwaukee. Lou Alcindor. So that kind of helped the Lakers franchise going forward. There's nothing that compares. And we looked this up across all four major sports, team sports in North America, a guy on that level, that age. It just isn't nothing to compare it to. Particularly when it wasn't like this was a number one pick. He was 25. He's putting up numbers, and the team was sub 500 every year. And you go, okay, you can't win with this guy. They just went to the finals. You know what I mean? So when you add all that stuff up, team success, along with just the performance, the talent level, and the age. No, man, it's unprecedented. We're gonna get a little taste of it tonight. And see what we actually. I was part of the call last year. Called a game in Dallas right after the trade. And this is when Nico Harrison was like, they were driving placards around the arena saying, "Fire Nico." They were chanting it at the games. He got basically booed out of a college game he went to at SMU. So there was like literally less than a week after we called the game in Dallas. This is my first time back since. I'm curious to see how different the vibe is in the city now, a year later, because I still think people are just so wounded and trying to get over it.
It's a tough one out there, but Legs will be on the call. So if you are a Mavs fan, make sure you're tuned into the ESPN broadcast. Always good to hear him on the call. Let's get to this game tonight. The first game we're going to break down, and that is the Detroit Pistons beating the Atlanta Hawks 120-112. It was actually a very entertaining game. The Pistons had control of this game, like 10-point lead for almost all of it, and they maintained that up until the fourth quarter when the Hawks made their run and made this a very interesting game. I think it was a 4-point game with a minute 30 to go, but the Pistons were able to close it out. Cade Cunningham had the shot of the night. I thought he had a good game tonight, not necessarily a phenomenal one, but he did hit the calm down shot with, I think, a minute 30 to go, up 4, hemorrhaging points, and he kind of just isolated, got into the paint, and got to a step back, and I thought that was the shot that settled things down. But what stood out to you about this game from either side?
Well, for the Pistons, I think now you're seeing at 13-2 here with this long winning streak. This is a team now that just has total belief they're gonna pull out of any situation. Like, you can see the confidence level growing in this team on a daily basis. They know that right now there's opportunity, and kind of surprised people a year ago with this rapid ascent from where they were in 1 year, really, and now they came right out of the summer. And, we had a lot of teams that were on our radar coming into the regular season. Some of them have not lived up to what we expected out of the gate. This is one team that has. They were ready for this, and you can just see the belief now. So even though that whole lead disappeared, they had, I don't know what the biggest lead was. I think at one point it was at least 14. It gets down to 1. The crowd in Atlanta is going crazy. It was pretty cool listening to it and hearing that defense chant was like popping off. So you knew how loud it must have been in the arena. And they just come down and they operate. And you said it, Cade, in that situation, he just goes and he isolates. They gave him the middle of the floor to himself. They played him one-on-one. They've got some elite defenders that can play him one-on-one. He gets a little step back 14-footer, calms everybody down. And then the very next possession, he goes basically kind of coast to coast and just overpowers people at the rim to get a little floater to go. Now it's a 6-point game, and that was pretty much all she wrote. So that's the first takeaway. The belief is growing for this group.
Takeaway.
That the why not now mentality is why not us and why not now? You can feel that and sense it every night. And this was a perfect example of, now, look, give the Hawks a lot of credit. We'll get to them in a second. I mean, super shorthanded, missing 3 major pieces offensively and defensively. Yet they fought all the way back, man. So it says a lot about them too. But for me, this was more about the Pistons responding in that moment when it looked like maybe this thing could get away from them, and nobody would, sit there and fault them for losing a game on the road to a pretty good team. But they wouldn't let that happen. And the streak that their bench was standing up like the entire last quarter and a half. They're so into this winning streak and into like showing who they are every night, man. So that to me is what I took out of this more than anything.
I love that takeaway because you're right. They are a confident team. I would even say, because this is a young team, especially last night when you don't have some of the veteran players in the lineup, they just have this veteranness to them, this maturity to them that's beyond their years, because they didn't, when that game got tight, oftentimes you'll see some hero ball or speed up. We start to get into things. They just were kind of calm and methodical. We've credited that to Cade Cunningham a lot, and I think it's fair because of how he controls the pace. But I think even to me, the story of last night, and really the story of their team so far this year, is how good Jalen Duren has been and how much of a true like running mate. We were talking about Jaden Ivey coming back and this or that. Jalen Duren is the second guy now, and he's a running mate. He's had 8 20-point games this season. He had 4 all of last season. Legs. He is really coming into his own, and he's just so physically dominant inside.
And he, at this rate, it's early, he's absolutely should be an all-star, because the consistency with which he's doing this is impressive. Look, and I know I don't throw that out like ever, because it's so easy to say, oh, he's an all-star. Then you start writing names on paper, and you're like, okay, who's going to get voted in, and other guys are going to get in. So there's not that many spots left for young first-time all-star type players. But this team continues. They're not going to keep this winning streak alive, but if they're number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference when this is determined, Jalen Duren should be an all-star, because he is giving them the presence and the consistency that they need as a big. He's only 20 years old. It's pretty incredible how much this guy has improved since he came into the league. And even last year, he was an 11-10 guy. Now he's a 21-12 guy. On a team that's got a guy that's, turning into like legitimate on his way to potentially being a superstar. I don't throw that word around either. I'm not going to give Cade that yet. He's clearly a star. Superstar is a different level. He's on his way there. And so it's not easy to grab that kind of real estate on a team when you've got a guy that dominates the ball, can that leap as well. And yet he's done it because he converts everything in the paint, literally every opportunity he gets. He converts. His free throw shooting was a weakness last year, 67%. So you could go grab him and foul him. Do you realize in this game, Adam, they were intentionally inbounding the ball to Jalen Duren so he would get fouled. That's how far this guy has come. And now he's pushing 80% from the foul line. So it's his transformation in terms of just like the polish and like a legitimate big time threat on the glass and now as a scorer. Man, what a presence he has given them, and what a two-man combination with a guard and a big like Cunningham and Duren.
And that's what I mean about him now being a guy where you look around and say, is that our building block? Those two guys, and now everything has to fit around him. Because last year, I mean, that stat to me is so crazy. 4 games where he had 3 games of 21 points, 1 game of 22. His high last year, single game high, was 22. He's averaging that now. That is an incredible glow up for a guy. And he's doing it the exact same way he was doing it on low volume. He's doing it with efficiency and with strength. And it's another team legs that goes to the 2 big lineup to start. They play. I mean, Cade Cunningham, if being a point guard with his size, you're going to have length on the perimeter because now you can put tall guys around him, and they do that. But then when you have Beef Stew, Isaiah Stewart, and Duren inside, what I like is one of them always rim runs. So whichever one is down the court first, he's rim running and trying to seal or do whatever, and then the other guy will stay behind. But both of them are just so big that they give you a size and physicality mismatch.
No doubt. And they're deep, man. Like you talk about the dual bigs and the energy that Stewart gives you, the production that Duren gives you. They've got other guys really stepped up. Like Daniss Jenkins is a guy that stands out to me. Like he was a two-way player that is now playing significant minutes. He's been involved in a lot of big moments late. He's on the floor late to decide games. You've got these athletic wings. You've got Ausar Thompson, who made some incredible defensive plays last night on Jalen Johnson, like late in the game. After Jalen Johnson had a very good game, but Ausar Thompson did some things late that really affected the outcome of this game defensively. Javante Green has given minutes and played well for them. So they're like deep. And you know what? It's funny. I look now that every time they pan over to JB Bickerstaff, this is a dude that like is carrying himself like he kind of knows something. Like what he's seeing every night, he knows this year in the Eastern Conference might be good enough. It might be good enough. Now it remains to be seen. The Knicks, Brunson goes down. It's early in the year. We got to see them at their best probably later in the year. I don't think the Cavs have played their best yet, but I look, the Detroit Pistons are rolling, man. And JB Bickerstaff has this confidence about him and clearly a connection to this roster that has been so fun to watch. They're just one of those teams that you have to admire right now, the way they're playing. And again, they'll fight back from a deficit. They will act calm when a deficit disappears. They're carrying themselves a lot of maturity right now. And I think last year, having a taste of that playoffs with the Knicks and that war that they had in that first round, I think really helped them into and get a taste of what that fight is like because they're showing a lot of that right now.
I keep looking at Tobias Harris on an expiring contract and just looking at their roster because I agree with you. They're close enough. I don't know if right now I would pick them to come out the East, but they're close enough that it gets me excited. And I just look at that and say, okay, that's a very movable deal. They have a couple other contracts that are movable deals if they want to go that route. And so I just look at that and say, is that a team that maybe is a little bit aggressive here when you get to the deadline? There's always a superstar out there, or a star player that you can add to the roster if you're willing to part with some assets. It might be worth it because they are, what is their record at the moment? 13-2, second best record in the NBA, and it doesn't look like a fluke. To your point, it looks like they just know who they are. They control what they do. And by the way, real quick, more on Duren. 98th percentile in points scored in the paint or at the rim this season. He only trails Giannis, Jokic, and Zubac. That's pretty good company. And then when they put those two big lineups out there, Atlanta did not grab a single offensive rebound in the 33 possessions that those two were on the court.
That's incredible.
Not one offensive rebound.
That's an incredible number right there. You talk about him converting. So if he won't probably as he gets older, he may convert at this rate, or maybe he will just take less shots as guys, that play his position get into their early mid 30s. Maybe they just don't shoot as much. But my point is this: if he were to maintain his current rate of conversion from the field for his entire career, he'd finish through the league. He's converted 65.5% of his career shots. Okay, so I mean, it just doesn't get more automatic than that. So he stays within himself. He's not a guy yet that's tinkered. Oh, you know what? I'll add some 3-point shooting to my game. I think that's what I need to do this offseason. Right now, he's not doing that. Maybe he will at some point. He'll add that. I remember, Serge Ibaka being a good example, like this dominant interior force that he was in Oklahoma City. And then he said, you know what? It's kind of fun shooting 18-footers, and it's kind of fun shooting threes. And then his impact defensively completely disappeared because he started focusing more on that kind of stuff. I hope Jalen Duren stays like this his entire career and just is like, you know what? It's fine. I want to shoot threes. It just gives me more room in the paint to convert and not in his traffic as much and just overwhelm guys with my size and my power. And he's got a great touch. So he's really kind of a special and unique big. Not interested right now in expanding his game other than at the free throw line, which is great because you're going to get fouled a lot as a big. He's done an amazing job of that. But he's not out there tinkering with pick and pops and pick and pop threes. He's doing what he does, which is catch the ball on a short roll or on the offensive glass and go back up and convert at a really high rate, and it allows them to set their half-court defense because of it.
He's also got a really good, he uses his pivots well around the rim because he's 6'10" and he can power up and dunk, but a lot of times if you're sitting on one shoulder, he's really good at spinning the other way, going to the other shoulder, but pinning you on it. So he just has a way of getting that shot up, even if he's not just going through you and dunking on you. He's got the skill set that's perfect for the way he plays, which is, you always love to see that. And we go to the other side with the Atlanta Hawks. They were shorthanded, to your point. Jalen Johnson had a nice game, 25, 8, and 9. Okongwu, 4 of 7 from the 3-point line. It stands out. It's crazy that a guy has doubled. He's never shot, I think, more than 34% from the 3-point line. And this year he is shooting twice as many, and his efficiency is higher than ever. He is up to, let me make sure I have it right here. He is up to 40.6% from 3 on 4.6 attempts. His previous high was 2 attempts a game. So he's more than doubled it and shooting a career high.
Yeah, it really impressed me because he was a guy that you kind of just looked at as he's going to be important. He's going to be a rotational player. He plays hard, got some versatility to his game. You trust him, but what really ever tap into this level offensively? And he's doing that now because he's just continued to work and add to his game to where now you notice him at all times. Like when you listen to a broadcast of a Hawks game now as a year ago, you now hear his name is talked about all the time because he's in the midst of stuff. He touches the ball a lot more than he used to. He is a guy that is got great versatility defensively, so he can switch on to different people. So you're constantly hearing his name more so than a lot of role players who, if they do a certain thing that they do well, you'll hear their name in a game. His name during this broadcast of this game was constantly being talked about. So give him a lot of credit. Now, look, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. All right. And this is why this makes sense more about Atlanta this game than it did Detroit even. You're missing Trae Young. Yeah. You're missing Porzingis. You're missing Zaccharie, Risacher. I mean, you're talking about it. Think about what I just said. Trae Young, Jalen Johnson's your emerging star. Trae Young is your current star. Porzingis is a guy that's a massive difference maker when he plays on both ends of the floor. He creates mismatches with his shooting and spacing on the other end. He draws bigs out. It creates opportunities in the paint because you draw a big out of the lane. And then Risacher, has got such beautiful stroke. He's another guy, and he plays really good perimeter defense. You're missing a lot. So maybe this says more about the Hawks. The fact that, they're sitting here at 9-6, 9-5 going into the game, and yet you're missing all these guys, and you fought back in this to potentially get one stop. You have the ball to take the lead in the fourth quarter. And Cade Cunningham had an answer for that. And they weren't able to get it done. But I was very impressed with their ability, that shorthanded, to dig out the way that they did and to fight the way that could bode really well for them once they're fully healthy.
It felt like they had no business being in this game, quite frankly. And most of this game, it played out like that, where Detroit just kept them at bay. So the fact that they were able to make a push was impression. Nickeil Alexander-Walker hit a couple tough shots. Jalen Johnson obviously did his thing. Vit Krejci has been a good player for them lately. Didn't necessarily have a big night for them last night. And then Mo Gay last night, 11 points, 11 rebounds. I thought he gave them really good minutes, especially on the glass. Like, they needed some points from somewhere, and he was getting on the glass. 7 offensive rebounds and some putbacks, and I thought that was one of the big differences there. So I'm with you. It was a nice hustle. Is there anybody else from the Hawks that you think deserves sort of a recognition here?
Well, I think we haven't really talked much about Jalen Johnson yet on this one. He continues to, you watch him, and I'm looking at him last night, and he's had one of the best statistical games you're ever going to see. Was it last game or 2 games ago when he damn near had a quadruple double, and a monster one at that. It wasn't like your 10, 10, 10, and 9, it was like 36, 17, 13, like 7 steals. So you're watching him, and the talent's there. He's an incredible athlete. He's really worked on his shooting ability. So now I'm looking at him last night and I'm saying, what's the thing? If you really want to get to that level where, with this kind of athletic ability and what he's added to his shooting ability, how does he now become a guy that eventually is like all league caliber player? And for me, there's one thing left for him.
Okay.
He has to have more command of his handle, like where he has a counter to his first move. And I would use a comparison of Jason Tatum as physical profiles, as kind of similar builds, both very athletic. Go look at Jason Tatum when he came out of school, even 2 years into his career, and look at Jason Tatum when he became an MVP candidate, like perennial. It was because he added a secondary move to his handle. Because right now, Jalen Johnson can hit you with one, and he's gonna then, if that's defended well, maybe it's a lean back jumper at that point, or maybe he just tries a straight line dribble drive through that off balance runner, or maybe he picks it up and moves it. Jason Tatum got to the point where he hit him with a move, get cut off. Okay, let me now back up a step and hit you with a counter move. That secondary command of your handle to create more, and not necessarily always scoring opportunities, but just like breakdown opportunities of the defense, collapsing the defense. And that's, to me, the next thing for Jalen Johnson to work on. I was thinking about it last night because you didn't see a lot of that at any point in the game. That secondary move where you're like, oh, damn, he just put together a combination on like a big-time defender to get something for himself or to collapse the defense and make a play for somebody. That's the next thing, I think, for Jalen Johnson.
I think you're right about it, though. It is a dynamic handle because there's almost a bruteness to his game, the way he kind of attacks the basket. And it's obviously effective. He's so athletic. But you're right that it's rare that you see something that's like really smooth and dynamic. And if he gets that to him, I think he'll be unstoppable because he does so many things well. He's one of my favorite players in the league. And it was fun watching him go up against Ausar Thompson and Cade Cunningham, because those are all guys that have that length, those wing players with length that are a little bit more dynamic. And that's what made it so fun. Let's take a break, Legs. On the other side, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about LeBron James's return and what it means for the Lakers. You might want to mess with your mic, though, Legs. I think it might have that weak wire on it because it keeps cutting in and out a little bit. But on the other side, Lakers, and then we'll talk about some of these injuries around the league as well. First, Let me tell you guys about FanDuel. It's your place for live betting. If you missed the start of a game and want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join because FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So visit FanDuel.com/AllNBA to sign up today. Remember, that's FanDuel.com/AllNBA. Play your game with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 or older and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. You know the moment, the one where you realize you left your favorite sunglasses at the beach, on the roof of your car, or at a gas station 3 states away? We've all been there. I've been there too, but then I found Shady Rays. They changed the game. These got sunglasses that are made for real life. They're good looking. They have all kinds of different styles, probably 100 different styles to choose from with multiple colors in every single style, including snow goggles, by the way. If you're going snowing or skiing or snowboarding this winter, you can hop on there. They've also got great ideas for gifts, packages, and different things you can get some shades for people in your life. But the wild part is if you lose or break them, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. No guilt trip, just replacements. So now I actually wear my sunglasses without fear on hikes, at concerts, on the boat, wherever. Shady Rays is eyewear that has your back. We've teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com and use the code AC35 for 35% off of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. All right, back here, segment 2 of the All-NBA show. Legs, last night, LeBron James made his return, or his debut, I should say, with the Lakers this season. And it's nice to go up against the Utah Jazz. They've been feisty, but you get a home game against the Jazz, you're going to be able to put up some points on the offensive end, and they get the win 140-126. And it was actually a very close game. Utah led for parts of this game, but to end the third quarter, they went on a huge run, and LeBron James in the fourth quarter just started racking up some nice assists, built a nice lead, like a 15. It was a close game, and the Lakers opened it up at about a 4 or 5 minute stretch. They opened it up to a 20-point game. I guess that's part of the appeal of LeBron, Luka, Reeves together is you have 48 minutes to kind of pick your moment. At some point, you're going to have a superstar capable of going on a run, and that was the run they made. Luka ended the third, LeBron opened the fourth, and next thing you know, it's 20 points.
I love that description. First of all, I just love the word feisty to describe an NBA team. That just made me laugh right there. The Jazz
They're
are
feisty, man.
They are feisty. You know, they're an interesting team because they are capable of putting up a big night scoring on you. And they've had regularly this year 130. You know, they've had 150 2 of their last 4 games. One of those was a double overtime game. But still, I mean, they're and then other nights they get smoked. So it's just kind of who they are. They're still not in win now every night mode. But they're furthering it along from where they were a year ago. So you got to show up to play them this year. Last year, most nights they weren't really trying to win. So you could show up with like your B game or sit guys and still win comfortably. Now you better show up to play them because they are going to potentially put up a big number on you. So the Lakers, they did what they had to do in this game. But here's the thing about LeBron that I want to talk about last night, because I just heard too many people along the way as he was sitting out. The conversations that I heard that were taking place about, okay, how does LeBron fit when he comes back? And I would fall out of my chair laughing. How does he fit? How does he fit? It's the second greatest player in the history of the game, in my opinion. He's also, by the way, as capable of dominating you without shooting as any player who's ever played. So how's he going to fit? Well, when you got 2 other superstars on your team, or one superstar and one other like star, I think Austin Reeves has turned himself into a star player. When you have that alongside of you, LeBron James' passing ability is something that now you can just incorporate into the mix first before the high volume shot making. And I think he was having a lot of fun last night with that role because Luka had it going. He always gets, plenty of help. Austin Reeves had a pretty pedestrian night. Still ended up with 26 because he gets to the line so much. Didn't shoot a ton. Luka had a big night. LeBron didn't need to do that. But if you go back at him and look at when the Lakers put the game away and put this thing to bed, Luka was on the bench. LeBron James had a stretch of about, I would say, 6 minutes in the fourth quarter. It's about as high level passing and just finding guys, like with degree of difficulty on a lot of those passes in a short period of time you're ever going to see. So he ends up with 12 assists. A lot of them took place during that stretch. It's when they got separation. But it's like, for anybody to question how a guy with this level passing and this level IQ is going to affect the game when he comes back. And I heard so much of this conversation going on. I thought it was just funny. Like, here's the thing now. If you're JJ Redick, here's the luxury. This is why it was so important to add Luka. At no point in the game do you have to have less than 2 of these guys on the court at any time. 2 just dominant guys to break down defenses, control the game. 2 out of 3 on the court at any time unless it's a blowout. Then you can have 1. And that's JJ Redick's challenge, is to stagger those minutes to make sure that happens. And that's what you saw at the beginning of the fourth quarter. Luka goes, takes a breath. He'd already had 37 points at that point. And LeBron comes in, he doesn't really shoot the ball, and he dominates you because of his ability to find you and reward guys for running and reward shooters, reward Ayton a lot in that stretch. And his passing was the biggest, I think the most eye-popping thing that took place in the game was LeBron James' ability to just take over the game as a facilitator and get separation, turning it from a 6-point game into a 20-point game. It was really because of LeBron in that first 6-7 minutes of the fourth quarter.
As much as I agree with you, Legs, and I'm gonna annoy you right now. As much as I agree with you about LeBron, how he can do, he can play anything. You got Luka, you got these guys. There's no such thing as, it's too much talent. You watched that first quarter and it was clunky. I mean, I think it was like 13-2 or 11-2 to start the game. The Lakers were down to Utah, and there were some possessions where it was like, okay, what's everybody doing? That's natural. Anytime you welcome in a new guy, it's going to be natural. But I still look at that and say, there's still questions to me about the fit. That what there are no questions to about are what you said in the second part of that, which is yes, but you get to have one of Luka and LeBron on the court at all times, and often or almost always, you're also going to have one other star player on, and that's why last night's game reminds me a little bit of what OKC does. OKC wins most of the game. But come the end of the third quarter, most teams, if it's a close game, they'll go to their second unit because they want to have their star get like 5, 6, 7 minutes of rest before the clutch time and then come back in with 8 minutes to go and finish the game. Well, when most teams do that and you put Luka on the bench, but you bring LeBron out and you give him shooters like Reeves, LaRavia, you give him space like that, how many teams now, that could be a starting lineup for most teams, and all of a sudden you're trying to buy yourself some minutes right before the clutch. And I wonder if that's going to be what the Lakers do. If we see this exact pattern where the Lakers are pretty good for 2.5 quarters, and then at the end of the third quarter, start of the fourth, you get LeBron minutes with shooters, and you just hold on. The other opposing teams just have to hold on and pray LeBron doesn't dissect you before Luka checks in and closes the game.
Well, and that's what it's going to be all about for them. I will say this. You talked about little clunkiness at the beginning. I mean, that's just 100% what you would expect, because whether LeBron James is taking a lot of shots or whatever, his first game back, and he's not really that mentality player to do that. Bottom line is LeBron James is on the floor and other guys are like, okay, LeBron's out here. LeBron's got to touch it. It's different. When he was not there, it was very clear how they were going to operate with Luka and Austin Reeves either on the court together at the start of the game, or each of those guys was hurt at a different time. It was only one of them to start the game. It was so obvious how they're going to operate. Right now, LeBron's out there. It's like, this is LeBron James. So there's always going to be that. There's going to be like this feeling out in terms of deference that they're going to go through. Once they get through the first few games, you're not going to see that anymore. For me, this was more about ultimately, look, is their defense and shooting going to be good enough to really compete with Oklahoma City and Denver, maybe even Houston? I don't know yet. We got to wait and see. But here's what I do know. When you can put 2 of those 3 guys on the court at any time, and you have the luxury, if you're JJ Redick, at any time in the game, to get guys 5, 6, 7 minutes rest because you still have two of those guys out there, that's just different. No team in the league, nobody has three guys that can control possessions with their handle, with the combination of handle, scoring, and like facilitating ability. Nobody's got three guys like this. It doesn't necessarily mean it leads to a finals or a title, because I don't know if their defense and shooting are good enough. And I don't even know, honestly, yet if the chemistry is good enough with Luka and LeBron. I didn't think it was great at the end of the year last year in that playoff loss to Minnesota. It was something off about the whole thing. And so let's see. They don't really even have even a half a season really of games under their belt together. So there's question marks. But one thing you can't question is that nobody in the league has three guys that can control possessions with their ability to handle the ball, run ball screen, run ISO, whatever it may be, and break down defenses like this team. Nobody has that. So that's JJ Redick's luxury. Now it's a matter of, is the shooting around him good enough? Is the defense good enough? And does he stagger their minutes in a way that gives them the optimal chance every single night? It remains to be seen, but I was super impressed with, missing all this time, LeBron to come out his first night and find that kind of a rhythm as a passer, because that's not easy to do with a layoff either. Shooting can be hard to find. So can passing. Like, your timing's a little bit off. He was throwing thread the needle type looks that again made the game so easy for everybody on the floor. That was my biggest takeaway from the game.
Have you seen their schedule, Legs? This is so bizarre to me. Their next game is Sunday. It's Wednesday. Yesterday was Tuesday. Their next game is Sunday. They almost have a week off for no reason, just a week off. They play at Utah. Again, they just played Utah. They play at Utah on Sunday. That's the weirdest schedule I've ever seen. So LeBron gets to kind of come in, play a game, and now they get to go to basically a week of practice to get ready for this upcoming stretch. That makes no sense to me. By the way, Keyonte George, 5 of 13 from three. He cooled off down the stretch, but he was really good in the first half. I've just give the Jazz a little bit of love here. I thought Keyonte George, when he's making his shot, looks like a very dynamic and interesting prospect. He stand out to you at all?
He did, and he has been. And my thing is, I'm very curious, because I got the impression last year that Will Hardy was not completely bought in on him, mainly because I think he didn't know about his concentration level, his like understanding, like winning basketball in the moment, decision making was a big question for him. He's got a lot of talent, and I'm just curious to see if now that he's kind of lighting it up and filling it up, even though he's still a low percentage shooter, he's not an efficient player. He's a 41% shooter, 27 from the three, but he is capable of having these runs in games. He can string together buckets and give you like a 12, 15-point quarter because he's that good. And I'm curious if now that is because there was a time last year that everybody was out and Will Hardy still wasn't starting him, because I think he was like frustrated with him. Now he's starting, he's playing big minutes, it's lighting up. And I just wonder sometimes if coaches, like even a young, really smart, talented coach like Will Hardy, like at some point you kind of go, okay, you know what? I'm going to let some of this shot making and like the explosiveness that he has sort of override this other stuff. And it hasn't really improved dramatically. He's a very talented player. He has to improve his efficiency as a scorer as they start to kick the can down the road and try to become more competitive over the next couple of years.
All right, let's move on to our final segment here, which is to look at some of the injuries that have happened over this last week, Legs. Giannis is out 1 to 2 weeks with a groin strain. If you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, they're 8-7. They lose to Cleveland on Monday, 8-7. They play Philadelphia, Detroit, Portland, Miami, New York coming up here in the next week. After that, Brooklyn, Washington, Detroit, Philadelphia, Detroit. So if it does miss 2 weeks or even beyond, you're talking about 3 matchups with Detroit in the next 2.5 weeks, 2 with Philadelphia, 1 with Miami, 1 with New York. Those are the teams you're vying for in the Eastern Conference. They're all bunched up right there. So 1 to 2 weeks for Giannis, that's I think a tough loss at a point in the season when they're playing the teams they need to beat.
Yeah, so I think one thing you've got to look at right now, and there's been a lot of talk about these injuries, and I think some people think like, yeah, it's not really a thing. It's the same as it's been every year. I mean, you hear some of that narrative, and Adam, it's just not true. Like, more guys are missing more games than they used to. And it's affecting not only the team's ability to win early, it's affecting even honestly, like your ability or our ability to really analyze what you're watching a lot of times. Like what massive conclusion can you make about a team when they go to play a game and they're missing their best two players? Like, you're supposed to draw some sort of conclusion. It's so hard to do that, and it's getting harder and harder because it feels like it's all the time. I mean, tonight's a perfect example. We got Dallas and we got the Knicks, and you don't have Jalen Brunson, Anthony Davis, or Kyrie Irving.
Yep.
Now, look, Kyrie Irving, like that
Not
happens.
all year, but
Yeah, but I mean, that happens, obviously. But some of these other injuries that are like cropping up all the time, like the hamstrings, the groins, there's different things with a tendonitis here, tendonitis there, whatever it may be. And you're just like, wow, a lot of ankle injuries taking place, to where now it just becomes more and more difficult to know what exactly, you're looking at and analyzing and breaking it down, what the big picture stuff means.
Well, all right, let's go to this real quick. And you might hate this take as well, but then this season, the pace of play has been its highest since 1989. The 1989 season was the last time pace of play. It might slow down, but there's a lot of teams that are full court pressing, which leads to turnovers, higher pace. And there's a lot of teams that are trying to now beat that by playing fast and getting in transition. And it's noticeable, Legs, when you watch these games, there's a lot of teams that are really, really running the ball up the court and just trying to play fast. Okay, well, we've had this in the past. The difference is the NBA right now in the half court, in my opinion, defensively requires the most lateral movement that it's ever had, because you're spacing things to the 3-point line. So rotations are so far, and you're asking guys to step out on screens, switch, rotate, do all these different things. And I think that combination, increased pace in the full court and increased distance covered in the half court, the game is just so taxing physically on the body. So, and Steve Kerr, by the way, I'm stealing this a little bit from Steve Kerr, where he says he believes, the Warriors staff believes, that the wear and tear, the speed, the pace, the mileage is factoring into these injuries. And he compares it to a handful of years ago and says, yes, everybody can shoot threes in the rotations. So I think this is a real thing, that it's really hard to physically stay healthy given the style of play in this era.
Man, I just don't see it that way. I don't understand that correlation. Look, I'm not inside what's going on every day with these teams the way a guy like Steve Kerr obviously is, and he knows his team and he knows the league. I'm watching the league, and I also played, and I'm just like, how is there a correlation between that? Because to me, then you're totally discounting the fact that, and I don't care what anybody says, it's a lot less physical than it used to be. And that means in terms of what you're fighting through screen wise, that the amount of contact that you're facing on a nightly basis, the number of hard fouls taken, and the propensity for injury in that regard, like just that alone, the physical contact that's taking place on both ends of the floor is less. So, okay, they're playing faster, you're spread out more, so you have to cover more ground. I don't know why that would be something that would be more important in terms of player injuries than because physicality being greatly reduced.
Because hitting guys like this, you get bumps and bruises. It's tough, it's physical, but we're talking about groin strains. Groin strain is you're spreading your legs, you're trying to get to the 3-point line, you're shuffling over, like calf strains. Can
I give you a different, my opinion, different take on this? Why this is happening? Because I do not think that teams are preparing guys in the build up to the season the way they used to. I mean, NBA training camps now look nothing like they used to look. Yeah. Okay, it's because it's even in camp, when used to be something that guys kind of feared. You lost sleep getting ready for camp because you're like, oh my God, is it going to kill me? Like, this is going to be so hard. Now, even in camp, which is supposed to be okay, guys are so hopefully doing their thing in the summer to stay in shape and get stronger and add to their game and all that stuff. Now we're in camp. Camp it used to be about physically preparing you to get ready. So when we ramp up opening night and the intensity level is greatly increased, right away from one night to the next. Significant difference in the amount of intensity. Just the amount of, even though it is less physicality, there's more physicality than there is in the preseason. We got to get you guys ready for that. That is, even then in camp, the attitude is preservation and conserve and rest and protect. And like the whole mentality leading into the season is, okay, we've done everything we can to get you to this point. Everybody ready to go on opening night? Everybody's upright? Great. But you haven't really put your body through the rigors of what it's going to take starting opening night. I think that has contributed to it dramatically. But it's like we don't really talk about that. Here's the other thing that's interesting to me, Adam. If someone outside the league, okay, were to say that, like, I'm talking about people covering the league, but you're not inside of it. You're not a player. You're not a coach. You're not a GM. You're outside the league. Guys like us, we're outside the league now, covering the league, and said, man, there's an issue with these injuries, and maybe it's related to this. People would just dismiss it. Inside the league, I mean. The people inside the league would dismiss that. When somebody inside the league says it, everybody now is like, oh, okay, yeah, it's a great point. That's what it's about. It's amazing to me because when injuries were talked about as like, hey, man, look at the data. Guys are are hurt more often. People inside the league dismissed it. Yeah. Oh, no different. Nothing to see here. It's been this way for a long time. But when someone inside the league starts to draw attention to, like, man, there's a lot of guys getting hurt. You know, that now everybody's like, yeah, let's figure out the reason why. I don't know, man. I don't know. For me, it's just my opinion. It's pace and spacing. I just don't believe that is why. I think if guys were more prepared when the season started physically, because their bodies are ready, you would have less of these early season injuries than you're having.
But we're talking about Giannis. Is there anybody with a better body? Like, is there anybody that's more ready for a season coming in? I mean, that's one of the greatest bodies of all time. It's probably a little bit of that. And I will say one thing that the league has done over the last 10 years.
He's also up in his 30s, man, with an unbelievable usage. Like, I have less of a problem with a guy like Giannis getting a groin strain. Yeah. It's like other guys, younger guys, that I'm kind of like, wow, that's where I shake my head.
Yeah. I mean, even Wemby, who we'll talk about here in a second, a guy that I think is taking care of his body to the best of his ability that he can. I was going to say one thing about these preseason games that's different from what it was before is it's like they use it now. The NBA uses it now as a promotional tool. We're going to go to Qatar and Abu Dhabi, and we're going to play in all these different cities where we don't have games. And, I know coaches complain about this all the time. It's like, we're supposed to have training camp. We don't have training camp. We have 3 days of practice, and then we're traveling all over the country and all over the globe to showcase ourselves. There's no real training camp to get ready for the season. So some of this is that as well, not just guys taking it too cautious.
Well, okay, so I want to talk about that for a quick second, and then I'm just going to give you a number to just let people understand like what we're talking about here, what's going on, some data. Like, how bad is it? How much different is it than it was in terms of guys missing time? I got some good numbers here that you're going to find interesting, I think. Steve Kerr had a comment also about, he said the first month of the season for them, and I might have this off a little bit, but something like this. 17 different cities they've been in or something in a month. Or like he was breaking it down, saying it's the most taxing travel situation they've ever had in a given season. And when you look at it, I was like, wow, that is pretty incredible, right? JJ Redick, recently we were talking to him before a game, and he said he was talking about how the difference with the charter flight and the era of the charter is, yes, it's great. Like, you can leave right after the game. These planes are incredible. They're like flying palaces. Guys have fully reclining beds. They can get sleep. But the difference is you are arriving in the next place at 3:00 in the morning a lot of time, by the time you get to the hotel or by the time you get home. So it's not great sleep. It's greatly interrupted. I thought that was a pretty good point, because you automatically think, well, that's got to be better than going back to the hotel after a game in an opposing city, sleeping in the hotel, and then getting up early in the morning to catch a flight to the next place, right? That's got to be better, but I don't know. Maybe some nights it's not. So I think that can contribute to some of it, or guys actually getting as much rest. But then I thought to myself, yeah, but at the same time, these guys have access to all kinds of stuff that other, former generations didn't, with like everybody's getting massages now, massage therapy and acupuncture, and they've got chefs and they've got all this stuff. Like, we didn't have that stuff. And even the next generation after me didn't have it. Like, that's a new thing. Like, so like you think, okay, well, that's got to really help. But yet here we are. And so to give you the numbers, just so we know what we're talking about here. And here's what I did. And this is just the most basic thing you can do, because I'm thinking, who do we care about missing games? The top guys.
Stars. Yeah.
So let's just go with randomly the top 20 scorers in the league. And I went back basically a decade. So 2015-16 season, and then last year. And it's not even looking at this year, what's going on, because we're too early. But basically, I took the top 20 scorers in the league, and then I threw out the two guys that missed the most games. Just because, like Blake Griffin, for instance.
Outliers, maybe, yeah.
Like Blake Griffin, for instance, in 2015-16, missed 47 games. Okay, so you're like, okay. So, like, let's throw him out of it, like, because that's going to skew the numbers. So I took each of these two seasons, a decade apart. I threw out the two guys that missed the most games. So let's look at the next 18 guys then of the top 20 scorers in the league. These are the guys that make up like the All-Star game for the most part. So 2015-16, 7 guys total that year, 7 out of the top 18 scorers in the league missed 10 or more games. 7. Last year, 13.
Wow, twice as many.
20 guys missed 10 or more games. So doubled it, basically. The average number of games missed for those guys a decade ago that I'm talking about was 5.3 games per player, not counting those two guys that missed a ton that I threw out. Last year, throw out the two highest guys as well, they missed, on average, those other 18 guys, 10.1 games per player. You're talking about twice as many games missed for the top guys. That's what we're talking about. Twice as many games, which means it's greatly affecting, I think, the product, what you're watching, and advertisers, networks, everything. Fans, more than anybody, the fans, because you don't really know when you buy a ticket exactly what you're going to see. So it's been tough, man, but it's dramatic. Yeah. We can debate the reasons all day long, Adam. You think it's related to maybe pace and spacing and guys covering more ground than ever. Yeah. Steve Kerr had maybe agrees with you a little bit. I think it has something to do with they're not as ready when the season starts collectively as they used to be, because training camp is treated much more like with kid gloves, the way guys are treated. They're not putting their body through and playing through soreness and stiffness early that might help them with this. And they hit the ground running, and they're not quite there. And I think that has something to do with it. Who knows? Maybe it has something to do with the shoes guys wear that weigh 2 ounces. I don't know. You know, shoes.
He used to play in bricks.
Weighed like 3 pounds each. They were like a little mini fortress you put your foot in. Now these guys are wearing slippers. I mean, they were in slippers to play basketball.
What were you wearing back in the day, Legs? What was your shoe?
I was wearing what everybody was wearing. You know what the number one shoe is? Shoe was basically 80s, and until the emergence of Jordan, the number one shoe company was Converse.
Converse, yeah.
Everybody wore Converse. I wore Converse all through high school, all through college, and all through the NBA. And I actually got a funny story about that. Converse, I was about to retire, and I had this one like favorite pair of shoes that I wore. It was like the year before I retired. And at that time, they had a rule: everybody on the team you had to wear the same color. In other words, let's say it was black or white. If 50% of the shoe was like more black, everybody on the team had to wear black shoes. Yeah. Okay, so here we are. It's early in the season. I'm about to retire. I know I got 1 year left. I ordered this favorite shoe. They were gonna discontinue it. My shoe rep said, "Hey man, just so you know, they're not making this shoe anymore. It's my favorite shoe of all time." I said, "Man, get me like 50 pairs of shoes." So they did. And we were wearing black, and they were all black. And guess what? Chris Webber, whoever our best player was in Washington, was like, "You know what? I think we're going to switch up and go with white shoes."
Oh, no.
And I couldn't
you
wear
got
them.
50 pairs.
I couldn't wear them. I could only practice in them. I couldn't play games in them. So they ended up still out of them sitting in my storage unit for a long, long time. But Converse was the shoe. Everybody wore it. All the best players wore it. And then, of course, Nike emerged. And now, you've got guys wear Adidas, Nike, and they're like the two most predominant shoes.
Yeah, well, there you go, man. It's so strange to think about an era where everybody has the same shoe, because now you go out there and nobody has the same shoe. Everybody's got something different. So, wild stuff. We have any super chats today, James? I don't think so.
No supers today.
No supers came in. All righty, Legs, you're off to Dallas. Any final thoughts before you get out of here? We'll see you next Monday.
Yeah, man. No, I'm looking forward tonight to. I saw Cooper Flag for the first time live in Summer League. And of course, that's not the same. So I'm really, really excited to see him for the first time tonight and kind of get an idea for just what the Mavericks' future is, because there's a lot of talk out there right now about what they're going to do. Trade guys. What are they going to do with the salary situation they find themselves in? Are they going to tank and try to get another high pick? But regardless, I'm anxious to see the Knicks tonight take on Cooper Flag and see what he looks like in person in an NBA game.
We'll cue that outro music. You can tune into him over on ESPN if you want to watch that game tonight. A lot of good games on tonight. I'm going to be locked in on what I hope is a terrible game, the Nuggets and the Pelicans. Nuggets need a bounce back after that Chicago Bulls loss on Monday. Everybody, thanks for hanging out. I am back with Jason Timpf on Friday, so make sure you're subscribed. Hit that like button on the way out.
Y'all silly like the mayor.